Episode 3, The Fire of Redemption. Part 1. December 19th. 5 days until Christmas Eve. Aino sat at her school desk, staring out the window at the gray sky. Snow was falling again, soft and silent. Inside, the classroom buzzed with pre-Christmas excitement. People whispered about parties, presents, vacation plans. Aino? She turned. Her English teacher, Mrs. Virtanen, was looking at her with concern. Did you hear the question? Sorry, Aino said. No. A few students giggled. Mrs. Virtanen's expression softened. I asked about your essay on family traditions. You didn't submit it. Aino felt her face heat up. I forgot. It was due 3 days ago. Mrs. Virtanen's voice was gentle but firm. This is the third assignment you've missed this month, Aino. I know things have been difficult with your grandfather passing, but... I'll do it, Aino interrupted, looking down at her desk. I'll do it tonight. Aino, that's what you said last time. And the time before that. Mrs. Virtanen sighed. Actions have consequences. I'm going to have to call your parents if... I said I'll do it. Aino's voice was louder than she intended. The classroom went silent. Mrs. Virtanen looked at her for a long moment. My office. After class. Aino slumped in her chair, feeling everyone's eyes on her. Great. Perfect. Just perfect. Part 2. What's going on, Aino? Mrs. Virtanen's office was small and cluttered with books. She sat behind her desk, hands folded, waiting. Aino stared at her shoes. Nothing. That's not true, and we both know it. Mrs. Virtanen leaned forward. You're a bright student. But lately, you've been distant. Missing assignments. Snapping at teachers. This isn't like you. You don't know what I'm like, Aino muttered. You're right. I don't know everything about you. But I know you're hurting. Mrs. Virtanen's voice was kind. Losing someone you love is incredibly hard. But avoiding responsibilities doesn't make the pain go away. It just creates more problems. Aino felt anger flaring in her chest. You don't understand. Maybe not. But I know that running from consequences never works. Mrs. Virtanen pulled out a form. I'm giving you one more chance. 3 essays, all the ones you've missed, due the day we come back from Christmas break. If you don't submit them, I'll have to give you a failing grade for the semester. Aino's stomach dropped. That's not fair. Fair? Mrs. Virtanen raised an eyebrow. Is it fair to the other students who did their work on time? Is it fair to yourself to give up? Aino wanted to argue, wanted to shout, but the words died in her throat. Because Mrs. Virtanen was right. She had been avoiding things. Avoiding work. Avoiding responsibility. Avoiding everything that hurt. I'll do them, Aino said quietly. Good. Mrs. Virtanen smiled slightly. You can go. Aino grabbed her bag and left quickly, her face burning with shame and anger. As she walked down the empty hallway, she heard footsteps behind her. Aino, wait up. She turned. It was Miko, a boy from her class. They weren't friends, but he'd always been nice to her. Hey, he said, catching up. That was rough in there. You okay? I'm fine, Aino said automatically. You don't look fine. Miko shifted his backpack. Look, I know we don't really talk much, but if you need help with the essays or whatever, I could. I don't need help, Aino snapped. I can handle it myself. Miko stepped back, hands up. Okay. Just offering. He walked away. Aino stood there, immediately regretting her tone. Why did she do that? Why did she push people away when they tried to help? Because you're scared, a voice in her head whispered. Scared they'll see how lost you really are. Aino grabbed her coat and walked out into the snow. Part 3. When she got home, the house was empty. Mom was at work. Grandma had gone to visit a friend. Aino stood in the silent kitchen for a moment, then climbed the stairs. The attic called to her. She had been thinking about the record all day. About the next songs. About what worlds they would show her. Part of her was scared. What if the next journey was worse than the demon's Christmas? What if she got lost in there and couldn't come back? But a bigger part of her needed to go. Needed to understand. In the attic, she took out the record with hands that only trembled slightly. She looked at the track list. 1 Demon's Christmas Carol, heard. 2 Christmas Metal Belongs to All, heard. 3 Metal Night, heard. 4 Santa's Coming. 5 Rudolph's Metal Power. 6 White Christmas. 7 Snowman. Aino placed the record on the turntable and moved the needle to track 4. The music started immediately, no slow build-up this time. Aggressive guitar chugging, distorted Christmas bells, and then a voice that sounded like a war cry. Santa's on his way tonight. Red suit gleaming in the light. The attic dissolved. Part 4. Aino landed on snow. Hard, packed snow under a dark sky. She scrambled to her feet and looked around. She was standing in what looked like a winter village, wooden houses with glowing windows, snow-covered roofs, smoke rising from chimneys. Everything looked peaceful, quiet, normal. Except for the sound. In the distance, she heard it. Marching. Heavy, rhythmic, like an army on the move. And music, aggressive groove metal with rap vocals cutting through. Listen up, kids, here's the deal, Santa's list is cold and real. Aino turned toward the sound and saw them coming. Over the hill, silhouetted against the moonlit sky, came Santa's army. But this wasn't the jolly, fat Santa from shopping malls. This Santa was tall, muscular, dressed in a red uniform that looked more like battle armor than a suit. His beard was white but his eyes were sharp, fierce. He rode a massive sleigh pulled by reindeer that looked more like war horses, powerful, snorting steam in the cold air. And around him marched hundreds of elves. Not cute little helpers with pointed hats. These elves were warriors. They wore boots that thundered on the ground. They carried tools that looked like weapons, hammers, wrenches, rulers. Their pointed ears were sharp, their eyes gleamed with purpose. The rap vocals continued, aggressive and fast. Been watching you all year long, if you've been bad, you got it wrong. Elves are marching, boots on ground, heavy footsteps, metal sound. Aino stood frozen as the army approached. They weren't looking at her, they were looking at the houses. At the village. Santa raised his hand and the army stopped. He stood up in his sleigh, and when he spoke, his voice boomed across the snow. Children of this village. The reckoning has come. Windows opened. Scared faces appeared, children, mostly, looking out with wide eyes. You've been watched all year, Santa continued. Every action. Every choice. Every moment of kindness and every moment of cruelty. He pulled out a massive scroll. The naughty list is long this year. An elf stepped forward, smaller than the others, and looked directly at Aino. Unlike the warrior elves, this one had gentle eyes. You don't belong here, the elf said quietly. Why are you watching this? I came through the music, Aino managed. I don't understand what's happening. Justice, the elf said simply. Santa's army comes for those who've been cruel. Who've hurt others. Who've ignored their responsibilities. The elf tilted their head. Why do you think you're here to see this? Before Aino could answer, Santa called out names from his list. Yuka Virtanen. You bullied 3 younger students this year. A boy, maybe 10 years old, came to his window, face pale. Lisa Korhonen. You stole from your parents and lied about it. A girl appeared in another window, trembling. Auntie Makinen. You broke your little sister's toys out of spite. The rap vocals kicked in again, aggressive and unforgiving. Elf squad rolling through the night, pointed ears and metal might. Got your address, got your name, time to play the Christmas game. The warrior elves began marching toward the houses, their boots creating a thunderous rhythm. Wait! Aino shouted before she could stop herself. What are you going to do to them? Santa turned his fierce gaze on her. Who are you to question Santa's justice? I'm just. I don't understand. They're just kids. Everyone makes mistakes. Mistakes? Santa's voice was cold. Cruelty is not a mistake. Intentional harm is not a mistake. Breaking trust is not a mistake. He gestured to the children in the windows. These children made choices. Choices have consequences. Reindeer stomping on the roof, metal hooves, that's the proof. Santa's here with his crew, bad kids, they're coming for you. The elves reached the first house. The boy, Yuka, was crying now. Please, Aino said, stepping toward Santa. Her heart was pounding, but she couldn't just watch. Please, they're scared. Isn't that enough? They're scared, they're sorry. Are they? Santa looked at her hard. Or are they just scared of consequences? Aino opened her mouth and closed it. She thought about herself. About Mrs. Virtanen. About missing assignments and snapping at her teacher and pushing Nico away. Was she sorry? Or just scared of failing? Being sorry, Santa said, reading her face, means changing. Means doing better. Means taking responsibility. He looked back at the houses. These children will learn that tonight. Not through violence. Not through cruelty. But through understanding what their actions cost. The elves weren't attacking. They were talking. Showing the children something. Aino couldn't see what, but the children's faces changed from fear to shame to understanding. We show them, the gentle elf explained, what their cruelty did to others. How their lies hurt their families. How their selfishness caused pain. Real consequences. Real understanding. Santa's list is written in steel, this Christmas rage is totally real. Be good next year, that's our advice, or face the wrath of Christmas ice. Aino watched as one by one, the children began to cry not from fear, but from genuine remorse. She saw Yuka Virtanen hugging an elf, sobbing. She saw Lisa Korhonen writing something, an apology, maybe. She saw Auntie Makinen climbing down from his window and walking to his neighbor's house. This is mercy, Santa said, looking at Aino. Teaching them now, while they're young, before they become adults who don't care. Before their cruelty becomes part of who they are. But the song, Aino said. It sounds so harsh. Santa smiled for the first time. The message must be strong enough to be heard. Metal doesn't whisper. It shouts. It forces you to listen. He leaned down from his sleigh. Tell me, child, what responsibilities have you been avoiding? Aino felt her chest tighten. My schoolwork. I haven't been doing it. Since my grandpa died, I couldn't. Grief is real, Santa said, his voice gentler now. Loss is hard. But using pain as an excuse to hurt yourself, to fail yourself, that's not honoring his memory. That's hiding. Tears stung Aino's eyes. I don't know how to do it without him. You do it afraid. You do it sad. You do it even when it hurts. Santa straightened. You do it because that's what responsibility means. Not waiting until you feel ready. Doing what needs to be done anyway. The music swelled, the choir joining in. Santa's army takes the night. Elves and metal, pure delight. Good kids get their Christmas cheer. Bad kids learn to live in fear. But Aino understood now. It wasn't about fear for fear's sake. It was about consequences. About learning. About growing. He would want you to do your work, Santa said quietly. Your grandfather. He would want you to honor his memory by being strong. Aino wiped her eyes. I know. The scene began to fade. The army, the elves, the village all dissolving into music and snow. Santa's final words echoed, "Make him proud, child. Make yourself proud." Part 5. The music didn't stop. As Santa's army faded, a new sound emerged, softer at first, then building. Cinematic, symphonic, with storm sounds in the background. Storm clouds gather in the night, Christmas Eve without a light. Aino found herself standing in a different place. She was on a snowy plain under a dark, stormy sky. Wind whipped around her. Snow fell so thickly she could barely see. And ahead, struggling through the storm, was Santa's sleigh. But this Santa was different from the warrior she'd just seen. This Santa looked worried, uncertain. The reindeer were struggling, unable to find their way in the blinding snow. I can't see. Santa shouted over the wind. How will the children get their presents? How will they get their cheer? And then, through the storm, came a voice. Strong, female, ethereal. Rudolf stands with glowing nose, knows exactly how this goes. A reindeer stepped forward. His nose glowed red, but it wasn't just a light, it pulsed with music. With metal power. Rudolf. Santa, let me show the way. Rudolph's voice was confident, powerful. Metal power saves the day. Santa looked doubtful. Metal? But Christmas is supposed to be gentle. Traditional. How can metal help? Rudolf stamped his hoof. Santa, you're about to learn. Trust me. The pre-chorus built, voices layering with choir backing. Turn the volume to 11. Let the metal guide to heaven. Rudolph's nose began to glow brighter. And from it came music, heavy, symphonic metal with Christmas bells effects. The sound was so powerful it pushed the storm back. See? Rudolf said. Metal isn't just noise. It's power. It's energy. It's light in the darkness. The chorus exploded with full orchestral force. Rudolph's metal lighting up the sky. Guiding Santa, flying high. Santa stared in amazement as Rudolph's metal music lit up the storm, showing the way forward. The other reindeer picked up the rhythm, moving to the beat. The sleigh began to fly faster, stronger. This is incredible. Santa laughed. I never knew. Red nose glowing, metal strong, metal power all night long. Aino watched as they flew through the storm, Rudolph's metal music blazing a trail of light. And she understood. This was about her too. About being different. About having something others didn't understand, something that seemed weird or wrong or too much. Rudolph's nose had always been different. Always been mocked. But in the storm, when everything was dark and lost, his difference became his strength. Her difference, her darkness, her intensity, her inability to be normal, maybe that wasn't a weakness. Maybe that was her Rudolph nose. A guitar solo erupted, technical and soaring over the full symphony. It was the sound of triumph, of realizing your power. Santa cranked up the sleigh's speakers. If metal can save Christmas, then metal is Christmas. Through the storm they ride with pride, metal music as their guide. They flew over houses, delivering presents. Every house got its gifts on time. Every child woke to Christmas morning joy. All because Rudolph was different. All because he embraced what made him unique. The final chorus hit with maximum power. Rudolph's metal saved the night. Santa's learned the metal might. Rudolph looked back through the storm, and for a moment, Aino could swear he was looking directly at her. Your difference is your power, he said, though his mouth didn't move. The words came through the music. Don't hide it. Use it. Save yourself the way I saved Christmas. The world exploded in red light. Part 6. Aino gasped and opened her eyes. The attic. The record player. The needle reaching the end of the 5th track. She stood there, breathing hard, her mind reeling with everything she'd seen. Santa's justice. Rudolph's power. Consequences and strength. Slowly, she lifted the needle and removed the record. Her hands weren't shaking anymore. She understood. Grandpa had left her these stories because he knew. He knew she would struggle after he was gone. Knew she would feel lost and angry and different. Knew she would need to learn these lessons. That darkness is part of Christmas. That everyone belongs. That actions have consequences. That difference is strength. Aino clutched the record to her chest and closed her eyes. Thank you, Grandpa. I get it now. I really get it. The light bulb flickered 3 times. Steady. Strong. Sure. Part 7. That night, Aino sat at her desk with her laptop open. 3 essays. All the ones she'd missed. It would take hours. It would be hard. She was still sad about Grandpa. She was still grieving. But she opened a new document and started typing. Family traditions, what my grandfather taught me. The words came slowly at first, then faster. She wrote about Grandpa's love of metal. About how he taught her that being different was okay. About how he never pretended to be something he wasn't. She wrote about responsibility, how Grandpa always showed up, always did what he promised, even when it was hard. She wrote about strength, not the strength to pretend everything was fine, but the strength to be real even when it hurt. Hours passed. Mom brought her tea. Grandma peeked in to say goodnight. Aino kept writing. At midnight, she finished the first essay. She looked at it, then read it through. It was good. Raw and honest and real. Just like Grandpa would have wanted. 2 more to go. Aino stretched, drank her tea, and started the second essay. Part 8. The next morning, Aino arrived at school early. She found Mrs. Virtanen in her classroom, preparing for the day. Aino, Mrs. Virtanen said, surprised. Is everything okay? I wanted to give you this. Aino held out a folder. The first essay. The one on family traditions. I know it's not due until after Christmas break, but I wanted you to see it. Mrs. Virtanen took the folder and opened it. She read the first few lines, then looked up at Aino with soft eyes. This is beautiful, Aino. Thank you. Aino shifted her weight. And I'm sorry. For snapping at you yesterday. You were right. I was avoiding things. But I'm not anymore. I appreciate that. Mrs. Virtanen smiled. What changed? Aino thought about demons and festivals and Santa's army and Rudolph's glowing nose. I learned, she said simply, that running away doesn't work. That my problems don't disappear just because I ignore them. That being responsible, that's how I honor the people I love. Mrs. Virtanen nodded. Your grandfather would be proud. Yeah, Aino said, feeling warmth in her chest. I think he would be. Later, at lunch, Aino saw Miko sitting alone. She walked over to his table. Hey, she said. Can I sit? He looked up, surprised. Sure. Aino sat down. I wanted to apologize. For yesterday. You were being nice and I was a jerk. It's okay. No, it's not. Aino looked at him directly. You offered to help and I pushed you away. That wasn't fair. So, thank you. For offering. Miko smiled. You're welcome. Does this mean you might actually take help if you need it? Maybe, Aino said, smiling back. I'm working on it. They ate together, talking about teachers and homework and Christmas plans. It felt normal. Good. For the first time in weeks, Aino felt like maybe she could do this. Be a student. Be a friend. Be herself. Part 9. That evening, Aino stood in the attic again, looking at the record. 3 songs left. 3 more worlds. She was tired from writing essays all day. Her eyes hurt from staring at screens. Her brain felt full. But she was also proud. She had done something hard. She had taken responsibility. She had apologized. She had started making Grandpa proud. Not tonight, she said to the record. Tomorrow. I need to rest. The leather bag sat on the table, waiting patiently. Aino turned off the light and went downstairs. In the living room, Mom was watching TV. Grandma was knitting by the lamp. Aino. Mom said. Come watch with us. It's a Christmas movie. Normally, Aino would have said no. Would have gone to her room. Would have isolated herself. But tonight she sat down between them on the couch. What are we watching? She asked. Some old musical, Grandma said. Very silly. But sweet. They watched together, the 3 of them. And when the movie ended, Aino didn't immediately leave. Can I ask you something? She said to Mom. Always. Did Grandpa ever mess up? Like, really mess up? Mom thought for a moment. Oh yes. Many times. He could be stubborn, irresponsible when he was young. He made plenty of mistakes. But he changed? He learned. He grew up. He took responsibility for his actions. Mom looked at Aino carefully. Why do you ask? I'm just trying to understand. How to be better. Mom pulled her into a hug. Oh, sweetheart. You're already so much better than you think. The fact that you're trying, that you care, that means everything. Aino hugged her back, feeling tears prick her eyes again. I love you, Mom. I love you too, Paprika. Aino pulled back, startled. You called me Paprika. Mom smiled. That was Grandpa's name for you, right? I think he'd want us to remember it. To remember that being sharp and fierce and a little too much for some people, that's not a bad thing. That's a beautiful thing. Aino cried then, really cried, and Mom held her. Upstairs in the attic, the record waited. 3 more songs. 3 more lessons. But Aino was ready. She was learning. She was growing. And somewhere, somehow, she knew Grandpa was watching. Proud of his Paprika. End of episode 3.